Hi, I'm Simon K. Jones, and you're listening to the audio version of Tales from the Triverse. This is Best Laid Plans, Part 1. London, Mid-Earth, 1980, June. Looking down on the Royal Mews from the spire of St. Martin in the Fields, Clark remembered again that he was really a ground-dwelling sort of person. Floating around in minimal gravity on and off for 5 years had given him a stronger stomach, but perching atop a church had not been on his list of activities upon returning to the capital. Even with Varco's hand on his shoulder, Clark felt as if one false move of his foot on the rain-slicked tiles could send him plummeting down. Then again it did afford an excellent view across the square and to St. James's Park beyond. After a kid had been shot dead, the protest had developed into a riot, and the police hadn't been prepared. They'd been even less expecting a group of Koth to fly in from the rooftops, taking out snipers and protecting the civilians. It had been chaos, everyone on the streets panicking at the sight of the winged beings. They hadn't been seen in London outside of the ghetto for years, and the government's propaganda still had them painted as the villains. Even in the muddle of the riot, it had soon become clear whose side they were really on. The long-distance armed police having been taken down, and the Overwatch observers disabled, meant that the streets were theirs. The police had pulled back to the palace and towards Westminster. The silhouettes of Koth against the skyline, atop buildings and bridges, made it quite clear that there had been a shifting of power. Clark couldn't help but wonder why they hadn't made a stand in the first place, years ago, but then nobody had believed it. Fears were dismissed as hysteria, or partisan point-scoring, right up until each and every warning had come true, after which it had been too late. Maybe that's just how people were, winged or otherwise. It's only after someone claps you in chains that you realise they really did mean what they'd said. Sometimes it isn't just talk, and threats aren't so idle. "We have the upper hand," Varco said. Rain slicked down their skin, highlights glinting in the mid-afternoon sun as it attempted to shine through the storm clouds. "It's not enough to win here," Clark said, wiping water from his eyes. "We need to get to Parliament." He looked across to the river, which he could just make out between the buildings. "More importantly, we need to draw them out, force Maxwell to put his forces back." "I would expect him to have already made the call," Varco said. "I had the misfortune of meeting the man several times, even having to work with him across various issues back when I still had an official position. He talks well, but is a coward." Clark nodded, in the process triggering a momentary bout of vertigo. "Then we press our advantage. Let's not advance too quickly. The government needs time to mount their counter-offensive." "It is a risky game, Detective." "You only want to know how to play." He pulled his radio from his pocket. A useful bit of tech, better than having to run to a phone box or a squad car to make a call. "Kaminsky, what's the word?" The radio crackled. "We're into all the cameras in the city," came his voice. "As soon as anyone comes through the Paranor portal, we'll know about it." "Tell us if the police start getting their act together." "Will do." Clark out. He sighed. So far, so good. Even as he thought it, he remembered the kid who had been shot, the protesters injured or killed. The threshold for success seemed lower by the day. Brûlier. Bullets impacted into the walls, spraying them with splinters of rock and dust. Darrella crouched behind what had been a market stall, now a pile of broken wood and metal. The fighting had been more intense than she'd expected, with Balteen's city guard bolstered by the presence of Mid-Earth soldiers. It meant fighting against magic wielders, as well as machine guns, tanks and helicopters. "I'm hit," said the Ainfar warrior beside her. The vibrant colour of their blood contrasted with the green of their skin, and he grimaced against the pain. "This hurts more than an arrow or crossbolt." She shifted her position, staying low and out of sight, as gunfire continued to spray the street. "It's still in your arm," she said, taking a closer look at the bloodied shoulder. "I'll need to get the bullet out." Most of the Akehu force carried rudimentary first aid kit, and she pulled out a pair of tweezers. "This will hurt even more." It took a minute, but the metal dropped to the ground. "Lucky I only got hit by one," the Ainfar muttered. Placing a hand on his arm, Darrella focused on knitting the skin fibres back together and sealing the wound. It was a rush job, but it would do, and keep them from getting an infection. A roar, and 3 Koth flew overhead, heading down the street. Dowler risked a peek and saw them barrel into the armoured post up ahead. The gunfire ceased. Some Koth's skin was ablative and could take a pounding before they suffered serious injury, fine for a few stray shots, but risky when up against automatic earth weapons. Seemed like it had paid off. "Move up!" Christian ran past, waving at them all to get up, his voice carrying even surrounded by fighting. They'd made it to the first of the main bridges, and on the other side was the central mesa, where they'd find the old city and the palace, the garrison, and a route to the university. The palace. Strange to think of all those years she'd lived there. Her return would be to capture or kill her father, and perhaps most distressing of all was that she had not felt even a hint of regret. He deserved everything that was coming to him, and she wanted to make sure she was the one to do it. It was all coming down. The city guard was unpredictable and inconsistent, some battalions fighting tooth and nail, while others retreated tactically. It seemed to Dowler that they were operating under conflicting orders. Her first port of call prior to the palace was the garrison. That's where she'd find Captain Rexon. He was leading the defence of the city, and had always been a good man, harsh, reactionary, uncompromising, but with a strong compass. Take him out and the city guard would flail like a beheaded beast, though she hoped to be able to find another way. Somewhere else in the city, following a different route, Lola and Yana were making their way to the university campus, accompanied by a small, covert squad. Ultimately, everything else that was going on was an elaborate distraction from that primary goal. Complete Cainamor's spell, throw open the gate between Palinor and Max Earth, disrupt the stranglehold of London and the Joint Council, and then what? Make something new, perhaps. Dowler couldn't quite see it. She'd helped the plan along, but her business was with her father and with the city. The others would have to take care of destiny. Thanks for listening. You can leave a comment, find lots more over on the newsletter at simonkjones.substack.com.